Between the two of them.
The inside of Coates.
Barker gets too heavily involved.
And that's Whitehead and Coates.
The Agon by AOC Cayman Cup. It's the penultimate night of racing, just 4 races left to decide the championship, and with a pretty big swing in the favour of Nicky Taylor a week ago, it's now down to his nearest rivals to try and peg him back and prevent him from wrapping the title up here with a round to spare. The venue for this potentially crucial penultimate round of the championship is the Francorchamps circuit in Belgium, a real classic, a real driver's favourite, and a favourite, I imagine, of both members of our commentary team, certainly one of mine, Jack Oliphant alongside me as usual tonight. Jack, are you a fan of Spa?
I'm very much a fan of Spa, yeah. I had the pleasure of actually driving it in real life, albeit 90% of the races were underneath a safety car, but the actual occasion of being there was not lost on me, and hopefully even in the virtual world it won't be lost on these drivers either. Plenty of slipstream, plenty of overtaking opportunities, and one of the best laps on the calendar.
It is definitely one of the few racetracks that I've had the pleasure of visiting that have lived up to the hype. I must say, it's a fantastic place, always produces good racing, and I'm sure it will tonight with the Cayman drivers. It is, as you can see, the 5th circuit that we visited. Started back on the 16th of March in America at Road Atlanta. Then we made the trip back over the Atlantic into Europe and the Austrian Red Bull Ring. A German doubleheader then, the Nürburgring, followed by Hockenheim a week ago, which certainly produced a lot, I would say some of the best racing that we've seen all season long. Now we're at Spa, and it all finishes in a week's time at Mugello in Italy, a really challenging circuit that to round out the championship. Now, I mentioned that a week ago we saw some good racing at Hockenheim. We also saw, I think, a pretty pivotal night in the championship, because Nicky Taylor, who remember said at first that he might have to miss a round this season, but did have to do that. He then went to Hockenheim and had a third and a first place finish in the 2 races, and that means that he arrives here at Spa 25 points clear of his teammate at HFT Racing, Kyle Felvers, behind him. 25 points the difference then. With 25 points available for winning a race and still 4 of those races to go, it is mathematically at least still anyone's game. Jordan Brennan likewise is only 5 points behind Felvers in 3rd now, then a bit of a jump back to Eric Axelsen in 4th, Ethan Hill in 5th position, and then Nathan Blank just getting into triple figures a week ago at the Hockenheim Ring. An interesting championship picture that, Jack, with 4 races to go.
Yeah, I think Jordan Brennan sort of pulled himself out from, I wouldn't say quite the dead, but I think he's certainly, no one after the first round was really giving him a chance at the championship. Potentially, obviously, the championship is a little bit too much of a risk of, a reach for him. But 2nd place is well on the cards. It hasn't quite worked out as well for Kyle Felvers as he was hoping for over the past couple of rounds. But Nicky Taylor, as you said, I wouldn't say riding his luck so much, but yeah, he's really performed strong, and considering he didn't miss a round, and then last week there was some potential opportunity for drivers to maybe launch a complaint against him, which never came, means that he's riding high at the top. But look at that midfield. We've got Tom O'Farrell just hunting us down between 12th and 15th. Chris Shepherd, Dave Buki, Paul Zanatachi, and Andy Carroll all bang on 77 points. So there is a fight to get into the top 10, but to be honest, those 4 are having their own little championship tonight.
Yeah, Chris Shepherd, of course, race winner in the first race a week ago. He was on fire at Hockenheim, qualified 3rd, first in race 1, but then a disappointing 17th in the 2nd race, which will prevent him most likely getting into the top 10 or so by the end of the season. Now, make it into the top 5 by the end of the season, and this is what you could be winning. The champion in a week's time now will win a 34-inch Agon curved gaming display. 2nd place in the championship will be the recipient of the Riggs SimRace 3 chassis. 3rd place for the championship gets hold of 2 tickets to TCR UK, a championship that starts this weekend, so I guess they won't be able to go to Alton Park, but perhaps around later on in the season we'll see those visiting. Then the 4th prize is 2 hours of online driver coaching, and PowerMax supplying both the 5th placed prize, the Valeting kit, and the Valeting kit for the driver of the round. We've had a nice mix actually of drivers, both those at the very front of the field and those who have put in strong performances a bit further back, who have been able to win that Valeting kit. It was actually Dave Buki a week ago who managed to score a very hard fought 3rd place finish in race 2, who earned the driver of the round, so a Valeting kit from PowerMax on its way to him. So, the Spa-Francorchamps circuit, I'm sure, is one that many of you watching at home will be familiar with, but let's have a bird's eye view, or a cockpit view, should I say, of just what it takes to get around this place quickly.
So here we are, going towards the line at Spa for round 5 of the Agon by AOC Cayman Cup, powered by VRRC. Really difficult turn 1, just at the top end of 4th gear, down to 2nd, trying to get as close to that insider's wall as possible. See, I stepped out a little bit on the rear there, but just trying to get a really clean exit and get the best drive down towards the infamous Eau Rouge bend. Now, the committed drivers will be taking this completely flat, but there's not that much to be gained by doing it. A slight lift and keeping stability through there might be the better option, especially if you're behind a car. You want to keep as much of that slipstream as possible all the way down the Kemmel Straight here, all the way down to turn 7. Really hard, difficult braking point here. You want to try and brake as late as you possibly can, but get inside of this curb on the right without getting a little hop into turns 8 and 9. Keeping it nice and tight and trying to focus on getting the best run out of this right-hander. Gets quite slippy if you get too wide there as well. Really difficult turn 10, braking in towards the apex, overrunning it slightly. That allows us to tighten the corner and get a good drive out on exit into the really committed turn 11. Carry a lot more speed through here than you think, and running as much of the exit as we can there, just about keeping our left wheels there on the curving. Now into turn 12, 4th gear. I find you've got to brake a bit earlier than you think to get the balance of the car to turn it in, and then you can keep on the power inside line all the way around to turn 13. A bit of the same as through the 7, 8, 9 section. Just trying to keep it tight, not make these corners too tight for ourselves, and then focusing on that exit yet again. Turn 15, really want to get our eye on that exit, then open the steering up and hang on this curbing to open up turn 16 onto this straight. Very easy to miss your turning point there and run it very wide indeed. Now trying to hold a tight line all the way through turn 17, which it is a bend but it isn't really, and then turn 18, the one that always catches me out a little bit, turning super early to get that apex and get that wheel straight, heading down towards the final chicane. Turns 19 and 20, braking as late as we dare, down to second gear, trying to keep it really nice and inside and focusing on not getting on that throttle too early and too hard to spin up that rear and ruin your lap. Make sure you tune in on Wednesday nights from 7:15 on VRRC's YouTube, and make sure you give this video a like and subscribe.
So go on then, Mr. Real World Racing Driver. Tell us what it really feels like to drive the Spa-Francorchamps circuit. It's, I have to say, a track that I enjoy driving in the sim. How close do some of these sims get to really recreating how it feels to drive this place?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, Spa is probably one of the tracks in the world, probably a little like the Nürburgring, although I haven't driven that one, obviously, where the sim does a pretty good job, but nothing can really give you the sensation and the fear of doing exactly what the HFT drivers have just done at the top of the hill. Yeah, it's a scary track, and I did it in a Ginetta G40, which has got a measly 140 horsepower or something like that, and a 1.8 litre engine. So you're going down Kemmel Straight, and you know, you're topping out in fourth gear about 30 yards into it. So it's anything quicker than that, I imagine, would be truly terrifying. But as I said, you do get a sense of occasion when you're driving around the track. Everything you could probably think of to do with Spa, like you said, it lives up to the hype when you actually visit, even if you're not driving.
It's just got this wonderful flow to it, hasn't it, I think? Certainly once you get... I mean, everyone talks about Eau Rouge and Radion and debates which bit is called which, but we won't go into that. But everyone talks about that corner. But actually, it's that middle sector. It's from Les Combes onwards that I really love. It's got this really nice flow to it. There's some nice camber in some of the corners, some undulation, but not too much. Yeah, it's a real driver's circuit, isn't it, Spa? And, of course, a long lap though it may be, it does provide several places to overtake, several big braking points, and also several spots where people can make mistakes and lose a bit of momentum. And I think what we've seen so far in the Cayman Cup, that is quite an important part of the racing. If you get a bad exit from a corner, if you run side by side through a sequence of corners, you can really lose momentum. We saw it a lot a week ago at Hockenheim, and I think we could see it again here tonight.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the first corner, La Source is easily one of the most important corners in motorsport, I would say, because you're going to be flat out in most cars up until the end of the Kemmel Straight. So to get a good run out of La Source, if you're 2 miles an hour down, you're going to be 2 miles an hour down for the entirety of the next 30 seconds, depending on obviously which car you're driving. But so it's very, very important. But it does give us an opportunity to see lots of overtakes as well, which obviously we like to see as a spectator. And if you get into other people's drafts, then it basically acts as the DRS. It can be so powerful around here. These Caymans, they're a little bit slippery. They don't punch a big hole. They're not like an MX-5 or a TCR car or anything like that. But we still are expecting some drama, shall we say, as they go into the chicane.
Absolutely. Counting on it, in fact. Right, qualifying. Hopefully not too much drama in qualifying. Plenty of space around the circuit for the drivers to spread themselves out, find a bit of clear air. We're starting to get some lap times in. Chris Shepherd, again, looks as though he's on the pace, as he was a week ago. He's fractionally quicker than Jordan Brennan at the moment, with Kyle Felvers third, Eric Axelsen fourth, and Ethan Hill fifth. But we're yet really to see true pace of our championship contenders. For example, Nicky Taylor, who is all the way down there, 13th place at the moment. Felvis, I guess, is up there in third position. A 25-point gap between those two. Max Bird, meanwhile, a familiar name to many of us, mini challenge racer in the real world. He also raced in the mini challenge here on the VRRC as well a little while ago. Very, very quick pedaler, but the first time we've seen him in the Cayman. So I'm interested, Jack, to see how he gets on tonight.
Yeah, I mean, he's apparently used to be a regular of VRRC, but I've been working with VRRC for a long time, and I don't, well, I'll say a long time, probably under a year, about 8 months, I would say, and I don't remember seeing his name pop up that much on the servers. So it's going to be very interesting to see how he cracks on. Obviously, maybe with the actual race season starting in the real world of motorsport, he's suddenly got a bit more of an itch to get involved and scratch the itch a little bit more during the week as well. Maybe he's using it as a little bit of racecraft practice, who knows? Or he's just on to enjoy himself. Any of those above reasons is still good enough to be here, because I'm very much looking forward to seeing how he cracks on.
Yeah, most definitely. Max, there's no doubt about it, is a very, very quick driver. Mainly we've seen him racing in front-wheel drive stuff in the real world, but, you know, we may see him excel, as it turns out, here in the Cayman Cup. He's making his way through the bus stop chicane then. In fact, we're on board with Nicky Taylor, making his way through the bus stop chicane, about to come on to what will be his first flying lap of the session, and making his way up towards the really important first corner at La Source. Big braking point into the right-hander. Nice bit of camber there on the apex, which means that if you don't carry too much speed in there, you can get onto the throttle nice and early and carry that speed, as Jack said. So important to carry the speed past the old pits, down into Eau Rouge, which is that bit, and then the rest of it apparently is called Radion. Through the quick right-hander, over the top, hold your breath, and out the other side. It's a real thrill ride that. He seemed to get that done pretty well, but he's giving a nice little slipstream to the car behind, which I believe is Max Bird, isn't it?
It is indeed, yeah. So Max is trying to obviously take advantage of that. And if you're in a team, you'd have thought you'd be running 1, 2, 3. Obviously, with someone punching a little bit of a hole in the air to let the other drivers get their lap times in. But clearly, HFT Motorsport are obviously two of the, well, they're the top 2 in the championship. Well, 2 of them are anyway. And they clearly maybe are starting to put things into their own hands in terms of they're not going to help each other too much in qualifying. Having said that, I've just noticed that they are basically actually running 1-2 in front of Scott Bugner here as we cut back to them. So, yeah, important teamwork here at Spa, I would say. It's going to be a bit of a difficult one. Obviously, what they'll hope to do, if they do qualify in first and second, or anywhere in the top 3 or 5, will be to work together to try and get to the front, slipstream and slingshot each other away from the rest of the pack. But it's not always that easy here at Spa, because people do like to have a little bit of a lunge and a nudge up the inside of La Source, so especially on the first lap. So they're going to have to be a touch careful.
Definitely stealing the word nudge for a lunge that ends in a nudge. That's a brilliant creation, Jack. I'll credit you for it, but I'm definitely stealing that one. Now, Jack Smith has got a little black number 4 next to his name on the timing tower, and that's not normally something to be that interested in, but it's the first time we've seen that this season, as he has a big moment heading through Stavelot there and through Campus back the hill towards Blanchimont. That was a little bit of a moment, certainly will have cost him time. Jack Smith then with a number 4 next to his name. Normally he'd have a red number 5, meaning that he's carrying the maximum 50 kilos of handicap weight. The handicap system introduced at the start of this season, and I think it's definitely had the desired effect in bunching the field up a little bit, but it's no secret that Jack was struggling with that ballast, and finally has managed to get a demotion, if you like, down into the 40 kilo bracket. He's the first driver this season actually to carry 40 kilos. For whatever reason, everyone was either above or below that. Interesting to see whether that helps him out. He's still, though, languishing outside the top half dozen. So I know he made a mistake on that lap, but Jackie's running out of time here to get a better lap in.
Yeah, a bit of a problem really for him at this point, and I'm actually slightly surprised that we're still seeing drivers come in for pit stops, because it is such a long lap, which is the problem that Jack Smith is sort of getting affected by here, is the fact that if you do ruin one lap, you could ruin a lap at La Source, for instance, in the first corner. You're going to have to wait 2.5 minutes before you get another stab at it, and with only a 15-minute qualifying session, it really does like snap of your fingers and you're pretty much done. And a lot of the drivers will have decided, as they usually do, to come in and change tyres as well halfway through the session. Normally, that's fine, but again, a 2.5-minute lap means you've got a 2.5-minute in lap and a 2.5-minute out lap. You have wasted 5 minutes of your allotted time, which is a third of the session just to change tyres. I personally wouldn't go for that move, but we do know quite a few drivers have. We've been talking about Jack Smith, his 40 kilograms, obviously coming down from 50. He's been struggling with that. However, one driver who really isn't struggling anymore, or he was in the first round potentially, but not anymore, is the second place driver in Jordan Brennan. And Andy, that is quite a remarkable lap that he's managed to pull out there. He's within a hair's width of pole position to Chris Shepherd, especially on such a long lap. And he's got 50 kilograms of ballast on board, 30 more than Chris Shepherd. To get up Eau Rouge with that much weight on is quite incredible.
It really is, and Chris Shepherd continuing from his strong form as well a week ago. He was third fastest on the grid, third fastest in qualifying, I should say. At the moment, he is setting the pace, but you're right, Jordan Brennan, who is only 30 kilos lighter than Chris Shepherd this week, because Chris has gained 10 kilos after his star turn at the Hockenheim circuit a week ago, but even the addition of 10 extra kilos in his car hasn't really slowed him down much. Jordan Brennan still struggling to beat him. 7 1,000ths in it then. Let's see if Brennan can improve. He's had a couple of back markers to negotiate, or not back markers, but drivers not on fast laps to negotiate. I don't think any of them held him up though. Comes across the start-finish line and does not improve. So Jordan Brennan stays in that second place. Nicky Taylor in third, sets a new personal best time, but stays in third. Critically for the championship though, Jack, Nicky Taylor ahead of Kyle Felvers. That's exactly what he needs. A 25-point cushion is a good thing for Nicky Taylor to have here, because it means that he doesn't even have to have a superb night tonight. He should still go to the final round in a week's time with the championship advantage.
Well, yeah, exactly. And in fact, there we go. Max Bird has just come across the line as we're watching him come across the line, and made him the meat in the HFT sandwich in some manner of speaking, because Nicky Taylor is, as you mentioned, in third. Carl Felvers has been demoted down to fifth. And now I would say probably the more important thing with that, sort of looking at that left-hand side, that leaderboard also, is the fact that Nicky Taylor is so close to Jordan Brennan, whereas Carl Felvers is 2.5 tenths off of Nicky Taylor's pace. So the fact that Taylor is a lot closer to Shepherd than Felvers is to Taylor, which is quite incredible, really. So we could potentially see a breakaway at the top three. Felvers is going to have to work hard to try and get onto the back of that train and just maybe help get the slipstream to help him pulled along at the first couple of laps.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I would say about Spa is that I wouldn't stress too much about starting a row behind Nicky Taylor. There are plenty of places to pass, as we've said,
True.
and even on that first lap up the Kemmel Straight, if you can be within a car or so of the driver that you're targeting, if you like, targeting to beat, that is, not to wipe off the circuit. Certainly hope they don't start making contact with each other at this point of the season. But if you can be in touching distance with the driver you have to beat, then I think at Spa of all circuits you can probably get onto terms with them. But of course there can be all sorts of shenanigans that kick off into Les Combes on the first lap, and you don't really want to be in the midfield, because that's where it tends to kick off. Eric Axelsen finds himself just about in the midfield at the moment, 6th fastest right now. He's looking to improve on that. If he does, he'll knock Kyle Felvers down another position, which would not be ideal for the man second in the championship. Looks like Axelsen's going to be the first driver to see the checkered flag as well. The time has ticked down to 0, so this will be everybody's final flying lap. Axelsen comes across the start-finish line. Can he bring the number 75 car up from 6th on the grid? Axelsen currently 4th in the championship, remember, and although he improves his time with a 29.0, he stays just a couple of hundredths of a second adrift of Felvers. Ethan Hill comes through and doesn't improve. The same for Jordan Brennan, so second the best it will get for him. Chris Shepherd's pole position then already looks pretty secure, as one of the HFT cars has a big moment in the background, Jack.
It has a big moment in the background, but I was wowing at Chris Shepherd's time. He's just opened out another 2.5 tenths, basically, on Jordan Brennan, so ideal for him. Not sure who the car was, actually, that ended up spinning out at the last corner, but it's Carl Felvers, actually, so that is a bit detrimental to Felvers' evening. But as you mentioned, well, qualifying, not evening, because as you mentioned, being the row behind isn't the end of the world. I was probably, making more of a big deal out of it than I should, because there is plenty of opportunities here. Dave Buki then, a driver of the round last time out. Now, he's got a long way to go, so he could potentially improve his lap time. He was one of the lucky few that got across the line before the checkered flag dropped.
Yes, he was. So, mind you, that big wobble at Les Combes doesn't make me think this is going to be an improvement. You are right about Kyle Felvers. He'll be disappointed, I'm sure, that he's a couple of spots behind Nicky Taylor. But, if nothing else, from a pride perspective, or wanting to make your point that you are capable of going up there and challenging, Nicky Taylor just 2 places ahead of him, but almost 3 tenths than Kyle Felvers. So that's maybe the thing that he'll be a bit more disappointed about. But you made the point. 15-minute session, 2.5-minute laps, he didn't have that many opportunities to improve, and perhaps didn't get a chance to come in and change tyres as he normally would. So lots of things could still change once we get into the first of two 20-minute races, which will be coming shortly. Got a handful of drivers still circulating. Kyle Felvers, Scott Bugner, Dave Buki are all still going, but we've seen Buki have a moment, and Bugner as well, so I don't think we're going to see either of them improve too much. That being said then, that is qualifying done. It looks as though it's going to be another, or first pole position I should say, for Chris Shepherd, and that makes it the fourth different driver to take a pole position out of the 5 rounds so far. We'll speak to him in just a few moments' time. So the 5th qualifying session of the season yields a 4th different pole sitter for the first race of the night. It's Chris Shepherd's turn here to start at the front of the grid, and Chris joins us now in the commentary box. Chris, a couple of weeks ago this would have been a surprise result, but given the pace that you showed in particular a week ago at Hockenheim, I'm significantly less surprised to see you continue that here this weekend. Is this the kind of performance you were expecting out of that session?
Yeah, I mean, it's always nice to get pole, but I mean, surprised maybe, because these guys are really fast. I wouldn't say I'm getting used to it, because I've been playing this sim. I've got about 90 hours in this sim now, so I'm getting up to speed with it. But it was the car. The first race I wasn't driving the car how I was meant to. I missed the second race, and then the previous race here I got up to speed with it, and it's showing the same here. So it's really good.
Yeah, perfect place to start, of course, although lots of work to be done in the race. Are you at all nervous about that run up the Kemmel Straight and into Les Combes? Because it's going to be hard to break away in the early stages, isn't it?
Yeah, indeed. We just have to see how it goes. I just need to nail the hairpin and defend the inside like mad all the way down to turn 4, is it?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy to do, but I'm sure you've got the pace. We can see that. You've also got a bit more weight in the car now because you've been doing so well. You're up to 20 kilos. Has that changed the car much that you've noticed?
I don't think so. I mean, I'm not sure how much the 50 kg in time-wise, around probably a bit more than normal tracks, because this is like a 2.5-minute track lap. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Hopefully it nullifies the slipstream. With Jordan Brenner behind me, and he can't get past. That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah, that's a good point. Jordan alongside you, a lot heavier, of course. Right, we'll leave you to your final preparations, Chris, but huge congratulations. Excellent job in qualifying there.
Cheers, bud.
Chris Shepherd then, who did improve there, as Jack noticed, late in the session to make his pole position time all the more comfortable. Will he be able to translate that, though, Jack, into a race win? Qualifying only means so much, especially, I feel, around a circuit such as Spa.
Yeah, exactly. And really, I suppose he's obviously talking about surviving turn 4. You got to survive turn 1 first, because of course La Source is one of the slower turn 1s in motorsport, really, isn't it? And you don't have quite as much of a long run up, but equally you really do have to whack the anchors on. Thankfully, though, there is a lot of runoff on the outside, so hopefully everybody is sensible and gives everyone enough room, basically. But we've seen it happen in Formula 1. There's no reason why we can't see it down at the grassroots level either, with a little bit of a nudge here and there, shall we say. So yeah, good luck to all involved, but as you said, hopefully Chris Shepherd can keep it clean. He obviously wants to get off the start as well as he possibly can as well, but Jordan Brennan, he's just going for that second place now in the championship. He wants to beat Carl Felvers. He's the row behind. So this has got a lot of sort of interest in it, even if Chris Shepherd's not necessarily involved with the championship at the top end.
Yeah, Chris, though, on 77 points. So he's within 30 or 40 maybe of the top 5. And remember, top 5 get prizes come the end of the season. So it's not inconceivable that he could win 2 races tonight or have 2 podium results perhaps. Only 16 cars entered as well, which will help his cause in the reversed grid. So I know we're getting ahead of ourselves here, but he could get a good points night tonight and, could move himself into contention for one of those top 5 spots. We'll wait and see. Anyway, Chris Shepherd, it is that starts in pole position. Jordan Brennan alongside him. Nicky Taylor and Max Bird, another bit of a wild card there. Max Bird not all-season entrant. This is his first race of the season, and the man that starts 4th on the grid therefore has very little to lose. The 3 HFT cars, look, have got themselves in a line down the inside of the track. Taylor 3rd, 5th for Felvis, and 6th Ethan Hill. But it's Taylor and Felvis, the first of those 2 pink and black cars, who are 25 points apart for the championship lead in Nicky Taylor's favour. It is certainly fair to say, I think, that Kyle Felvis needs to beat his teammate in this race to realistically keep his championship hopes alive. 4 races to go in the Agon by AOC Cayman Cup. This is the first race at Spa, and it gets underway with a good start by Chris Shepherd from pole position, who holds the advantage into La Source. What's going to go on for second place, though? Nicky Taylor up the inside of Jordan Brennan. How aggressive is the championship leader willing to be? I think he'll slot into 3rd for now. Didn't look like a great start there for Kyle Felvis. I think he might have lost momentum on the inside line and could be in trouble, Jack, as they head down towards Eau Rouge.
Yeah, I get the impression he was a little bit swallowed up. So as they go down towards Eau Rouge, like you said, Max Bird and the top 4 basically have pulled away a touch. Now the slipstream will probably come into effect and give Kyle Felvis a little bit of a chance. But keep in mind, Eric Axelsen is right behind him, and obviously he wants to improve on what has been a slightly disappointing championship for him so far. And then you've got Jack Smith, the champion in himself, just not having quite the right look. Chris Shepherd, though, leads as Nicky Taylor looks to the outside of Jordan Brennan. That is a little bit of a slide by Brennan there. Nicky Taylor could try and take advantage, but he's going to be on the outside. Brennan's rear end is going everywhere at this rate, and it's not helped by the fact that Nicky's just given that a little bit of a touch as well. Max Bird has joined in on the party and, in fact, has overtaken the HFT Motorsport, who now sees his championship rival and his teammate in his rearview mirrors, because that is a very nice move by the championship newcomer of Max Bird into 3rd.
Jack Smith out wide, coming down through Brussels into Speaker's Corner. He's really slow as he tries to find a gap in line. It's just not working out for Jack Smith at the moment in this season, and he falls all the way down into about 13th or 14th place as they head towards the double apex left-hander at Pouhon. Nervy times there for Nicky Taylor, the championship leader, and that opening half a lap getting feisty with Jordan Brennan backfired a little, and as you said, it's put Max Bird ahead of him, and crucially, Kyle Felvis on his rear bumper. There is their other teammate Ethan Hill in the background, but this is the action spot. 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th place. Brennan ahead of Bird, Taylor, Felvis and Axelsen. Eric Axelsen is 4th in the championship, dropped behind Jordan Brennan a week ago, and I think he'd quite like to get that back. So even the man at the back of this group, Jack, has a point to prove.
Yeah, he absolutely does. And I said the championship hasn't quite gone his way. To be fair, it has only been the last round or so that hasn't quite gone his way for Eric Axelsen. So, as you mentioned, always a point to prove. And but Jordan Brennan, being overtaken by Jordan Brennan is not something I would be ashamed of. He's a bit of a machine when it comes to the sim here at VRRC. This is Ethan Hill, the other HFT Motorsport car, trying to chase down Nathan Blank, who's been in the YouTube chat, so he's clearly relaxed enough to go on commenting on the YouTube chat, and he goes a little bit deep, which might allow Ethan Hill to get the cutback and get the nice drive out of La Source. But at the moment, we have to go forward. Chris Shepherd is leading the way. Jordan Brennan's got a nice little run, but Taylor, Felvis have both got ahead of Bird.
Yes, they have. Not sure what happened there. Well, Taylor's got him. Felvis still getting the job done, but on the outside line at La Source, that gives him a good run off the corner. Not a good run off the corner there for Nathan Blank, who drops behind Ethan Hill. Nathan arriving at La Source about 15 mile an hour too fast by the looks of it, and he's now backed up into Luke Weston and Scott Bugner as well. In fact, Weston's gone ahead of him, and Bugner, no, he's not quite close enough to do it, into Eau Rouge and Radion on board Nathan Blank, who sees himself dropping from 7th to 9th there in the space of one corner and a straight. We said, didn't qualifying, that it's all about momentum this place. If you make a mistake, especially at La Source, it's going to hurt you all the way back up the hill. He's now picked up the slipstream though and comes back at the Motor Swan car, goes up the inside into Les Combes, and as long as he gets the car stopped, Jack, that will be a brilliant move.
Yeah, and it was a great hold, actually, by Luke Weston. He's going to lose out, and as you said, that momentum is going to be pretty much lost. But Nathan Blank is really flying. And actually, to be fair, Luke Weston has picked it back up and almost came to challenge Blank yet again. But some good driving. I would say pretty good car control out there as well. Props to these drivers so far. But Ethan Hill, you can see that mistake, or that battle, shall we say, between Blank and Weston has just let Ethan Hill drive away, and he's already got a half a second to his name, and looks like he's actually might have the pace to chase down the likes of Eric Axelson up ahead, but that's a pretty big if at the moment. Blank going wide, Weston going to the outside to take advantage. Blank trying to defend through Pouon, and it's going to be a bit of a squeeze. I think Weston's going to try it. He's on the white line. There's just enough room. Good racing all round from those drivers. Scott Bugner wants to get involved, and again does manage to find a Cayman-sized space in that traffic.
Tell you what, Luke Weston doesn't let the fact that there wasn't really space there stop him, does he? Because he managed to squeeze that Cayman through maybe half a Cayman-sized gap on the inside coming out of Pouon into the pit chicane, as it used to be known. And yeah, I'm not quite sure how he got through. I think there was a little bit of help given by Nathan Blank, and he may be regretting that now because Dave Bucky's got past him, and now Jack Smith is up the inside with a bit of a hip and shoulder. That will delay Blank even more, and maybe give Joel Lask an opportunity to get up the inside into Blanchimont. Didn't quite get there, but Blank still managed to run wide, and that's really unsettled the number 48 car, you feel. Ahead of him, Jack Smith to the outside of Dave Bucky. Smith, of course, fighting back after his off-track excursion on lap 1. It's not going well, though, because the outside line into the final chicane didn't really help him through the second part of it. It loses him speed, and they're all starting to stack up against each other again, heading into Lassau's corner. This is a real melee, and the car at the head of the group doesn't know where to go. There is inevitable contact. Blank goes straight on. The Motors 1 car gets tagged sideways. That would have been Luke Weston, was it? I think he held on to it. That was very, very messy, Jack.
Yeah, I don't think Nathan Blank is going to be looking at his lap-by-lap breakdown, is he? Too much fondness. He's gone very much backwards here, and he almost took out all 4 cars ahead of him, but he manages to basically aim at a Cayman-sized gap that was closing rapidly, but somehow he flew through it without making any more contact, or any meaningful contact in terms of taking anybody out anyway. Max Bird with a brilliant run here at the top of the Camel Straight. Can he get that cut back? He's making Carl Felvis go on lines that he really doesn't want to, and that shows a good bit of racecraft by Bird. It shows his experience here. He's not really doing that much apart from making Carl Felvis make mistakes. He's not forcing the issue. And Carl Felvis will be looking at his mirror knowing that it's Bird behind him as well. And sometimes the most dangerous drivers, I don't mean that in the terms that they're going to hit you off, but the dangerous drivers that have nothing to lose because they've entered the championship late, yet they're quick, are the drivers you got to be worried about, because you start to have that mental fight in your head, don't you? Do you just let them pass because they're quite quick and they don't really hurt you championship-wise, or do you try and stay ahead of them at all costs, even if it means you might lose track of the people ahead who you are actually trying to catch?
And that's exactly what's happening, because Felvis is overdriving now to keep Max Bird at bay, and that is not only losing them time to Taylor and Brennan up the road, but it's allowing Eric Axelson to close back in. He dropped back a bit at the start of the lap, but you can see in the rearview mirror here from on board with Max Bird that the 6th place car is getting a little bit closer. Max Bird, I notice, is carrying no ballast. Obviously, that's because he's not really raced with the VRRC an awful lot recently, and it goes off previous race results. But I would say that's a fairly generous handicap rating given to someone who is clearly a very well-established and very quick racer, both in the real world and on the sim. So he's making the most of that here, and certainly asking all the right questions of Kyle Felvis, who for now has all the right answers just about. He's defending the place as Eric Axelson, Jack, takes a very interesting line through the final chicane.
Yeah, I think Eric was not quite 100% concentrating, or maybe he was unsighted or missed his braking zone, for whatever reason, didn't he? So yeah, he's sort of been let go at the back of that pack now. Flashing of the lights as we see a little bit further back. This, as you mentioned before, melee of drivers, all trying to fight for a similar amount of track space here at Spa. It's amazing how big of a circuit this place can be, and yet you're always trying to fight with someone for the for the 10 feet that you specifically want. Scott Bugner with 0 weight on board. Jack Smith with 40 just ahead of him. But clearly, that weight isn't affecting him too badly. Obviously, that early off probably did, though. Max Bird has gotten past Carl Felvis as they go down the Camel Straight, up on the inside into the chicane. Nice and cleanly done. So Carl Felvis really trying to put the pressure on to get that position back. But Max Bird He is sort of throwing a spanner in the works, shall we say.
I'm with you here, though, Jack. I think that Max Bird getting past Kyle Felvers is not the worst thing for Kyle's race, because Max clearly has some good speed here and might be able to drag him up to Brennan and Taylor up the road. So not only are they no longer losing time with Felvers not defending anymore, they may even gain time on the two drivers ahead. It's still Chris Shepherd that leads the way. Every time I look at that gap between Shepherd and Brennan, it is always 2.0 seconds. It's not really fluctuating at all. As I say that, it goes up to 2.1 briefly, but within a tenth or so, it's staying pretty much exactly the 2-second margin. So Chris Shepherd for now managing the race well, and of course Jordan Brennan carrying all that extra weight perhaps might start to run into some tyre issues in the second half of the race. Spa can be a bit of a challenge for the tyres, can't it? Lots of these high-speed, long, constant radius corners are not great for the front tyres, and then lots of traction zones out of places like La Source, Les Combes, Bruxelles, and through the final chicane. That can wear out the rears as well, so Brennan needs to be careful of that, I reckon.
Yeah, absolutely. It's another constant battle, isn't it? Because the last thing you want is to attack, and then all of a sudden have nothing left. When you come to the actual sort of breakdown, basically, about 18 minutes in on the final lap, you want some tyres there to actually, one, be able to attack the driver ahead of you, or potentially two, which is the scarier option, fend off the person that is trying to attack you behind. So, yeah, I'm sure Brennan, he's wise to that, I'm sure, as the gap has opened up slightly to Shepherd, but realistically, it's a fight for second place between Taylor and Brennan. Neither of them, I don't think, are going to go for Chris Shepherd, and that's Jack Smith getting in on Luke Weston, who's really been in the wars for one reason or another. I don't really see him actually making any mistakes. It just seems that everybody's very keen to get past him, and some of them using their elbows to do so. Jack Smith, who had to go off the circuit, but here comes Bugner up the inside of Weston, and Bugner gets on through. Has he gone too deep? No, he managed to get it really well stopped on the apex there and drives out at the lead of this little battle.
Yes, that was interesting stuff through La Source. This group really hasn't separated at all, has it? Buki's gone away. And in fact, Ethan Hill has broken away from them by about 7.5 seconds or so, but the rest of them staying together. Now, for second place, Nicky Taylor. Perhaps this is that tyre situation starting to play out. Brennan not as quick at this stage of the race as Nicky Taylor is behind. Also, Max Bird and Kyle Felvers, far from working together, did just swap positions twice between the Eau Rouge section of the track and the braking zone at Les Combes. It's still Bird ahead, but Felvers was briefly slightly in front of him. For second place, though, Nicky Taylor, not content with outscoring Kyle Felvers by a couple of positions on track, wants to get even more. Why not? This is part of how you win a championship. If you're on the pace and your title rival is struggling a bit, maximise the opportunity. If Nicky Taylor thinks he can make a move here on Brennan, and it can be a clean, relatively risk-free move, then by all means go for it. He's got no pressure from behind. He's got 2 seconds nearly over Bird and Felvers, who are probably going to keep on dropping back if they continue to scrap. So, yeah, may as well go for it, as Nathan Blank has gone for a spin.
Yeah, as I said, I don't think Nathan Blank will be watching this one back with too much fondness, unfortunately. It hasn't really been his greatest evening in terms of this first race. Qualified okay, I believe, but yeah, not really had it in the first 12 minutes of actual racing. Like you mentioned, Nicky Taylor, this is what racing drivers want to do. Even if you are going for a championship, you still want to have fun and enjoy the race that you're actually in. It would be a bit boring if you just went out there and did 20 minutes just looking at Jordan Brennan's back bumper and not doing anything about it. However, one would argue potentially the smart thing to do. Even though there's a reverse grid race up a little bit later, you want to bag as many points as you possibly can now. So it's a little bit of a war of two minds, basically, that Nicky Taylor's probably stuck in. Kyle Felvers is in a war whether he chooses to or not with a driver that really doesn't make any difference to championship. All Max Bird can really do is take points off of championship favourites. And at the moment, he's taking points off Kyle Felvers.
He is. They are matching, though, Brennan and Taylor ahead. So, again, I still maintain that with 7 minutes to go, perhaps Kyle and Max should just put this battle on ice for a lap or so, see if they keep on scrapping ahead of them, and maybe they could catch them. But racing drivers never listen to me when I say this, and I don't anticipate that's going to start today. They will keep on fighting, I'm sure, as we head up the Kemmel Straight this time into the best overtaking opportunity. I'm pretty certain that Kyle Felvers is going to try and have another go. He's only a car length or so behind Max Bird as they crest the rise at Radion, hit the kink, and then onto the Kemmel Straight. 3 seconds now the advantage for Chris Shepherd. You can see him in the foreground. That 3-second gap is back to Jordan Brennan in second, Nicky Taylor in third, then a further 1.5 seconds or so back to, yep, you guessed it, a side-by-side battle for 4th place. And again, Bird hangs on, but that defensive line into Les Combes cost them the best part of half a second.
The problem is, going out into Lecombe, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. I mean, fighting on the rest of the lap is sort of, in my opinion, and probably your opinion as well, Andy, probably not the best advice for these two drivers hunting down the two ahead of them. But going into Lecombe, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you've got the slipstream on someone, you have to move out of the way. Otherwise, you're going to lift, and racing drivers don't lift, especially the fast ones. They just sort of find the space. But as I said, the problem is if he lifts and doesn't go for the move, which doesn't slow them up overall on the lap, you're sort of wasting and scrubbing off so much speed. If he keeps his foot in and he has all that overspeed, he has to go somewhere. He can't go into the back of the driver in front, so he has to make a move left or right, which then inevitably will put the driver in front off, make them go slightly slower, and inevitably slow them down, which is what we're seeing. So it's a real struggle here at Spa to sort of negotiate that. It's something that you don't really think about until it's happening to you, and you're probably reflecting on it after the race.
It's always been my opinion, and again, I'm a commentator, not a racing driver. When I have done a bit of sim racing at Spa in a kind of slipstreamy-based sports car of some sort, Mazda MX-5, I've always been of the opinion that if someone gets that big a run on you up the Kemmel Straight and they're alongside you, forcing you to go off your ideal line into Lecombe, it's going to cost you less time to tap the brakes and drop in behind them than it will to go side by side through Lecombe itself, because you lose so much time by going defensive or going wheel to wheel through that sequence of corners. So let the guy go, knowing that if he can get that slipstream on you on this lap, you can always do the same to him next lap. And if you work together doing that, you can sometimes be quicker working together, would be fighting each other. But again, what do I know? I'm a commentator, not a racing driver, and clearly this lot want to get stuck in. Now, speaking of getting stuck in, that looked like a big mess at the final chicane. Dave Buki, who had been getting away from this group of cars, clearly has been sort of sucked back into it, and he's come out the worse for that because he's lost a number of positions, Jack.
Yeah, we didn't quite see what happened there, but the fact that Dave Buki's front end probably looks the worst probably means he was towards the rear end and joined that fight a little bit, joined that crash a little bit late. Now, I think they've all got back going, and I don't think there's any major hits in terms of positions because, of course, this was really the midfield battle. Nicky Taylor trying to go for the move on Jordan Brennan. Carl Felvers has re-overtaken Max Bird, but, of course, but this time they've gone a little bit deep, and I think that is going to be track limits. I was going to question how they're doing track limits tonight. Max Bird really probably should give that one back to Carl Felvers, but he looks like he's going to leave it to the stewards to decide. So might be worth having a quick look forward because I think Nicky Taylor and Jordan Brennan were going side by side as they go down towards No Name. And in fact, they are. So, no, they've gone back to single file. So Nicky Taylor can't quite make this happen. Even though he's got 20 kilos less, Andy, which is a curious thing, he can't get the run quite made on Jordan Brennan. And side note, last thing, Eric Axelson has also joined that fight behind. It's now a three-way battle.
It's another one of those races where there's so much to talk about and so little time. We've only got 3.5 minutes to go, and yeah, there are several pockets of activity around the circuit, all of which are significant in one way or another. The only driver really who's not involved in a battle, at least at the sharp end, is the race leader, Chris Shepherd, who continues to build this margin. 3.5 seconds now is the gap that he enjoys. Only 2 drivers so far this season have won one race. They are Nicky Taylor and Kyle Felvers, the championship leaders. So if Chris Shepherd can do this and back up the win from a week ago at the Hockenheim circuit, then he really will be joining esteemed company, and it's a bit of a shame in a way that he hadn't been able to show this pace from the very start of the season, because the speed he's got now could easily have been a championship contender. Back up towards Blanchimont we go, though, on board with Eric Axelson. Grandstand view here, Jack, of the battle between Bird and Felvers ahead.
Yeah, Bird's going defensive early, showing his intention really early on to make sure Felvers knows he's going to go defensive, but he's going to outbrake himself just like he did at Lecombe. Can Carl Felvers fly around the outside? He's done what he couldn't do a lap ago, and he's managing to get past Max Bird. But, like you said, once they get past, all that means is Bird will have the run onto Felvers going into Lecombe. So it's going to be a cat and mouse style thing all the way into the end. I think this may well be the final lap of the race. I didn't quite catch when Chris Shepherd went across the line in relation to the timer, but it may be the last lap of the race, and I think these drivers should probably treat it that way, to be honest, and try and get their moves done. Eric Axelson, I think, if everybody was in clean air, doesn't have the run, but here we go, and now it's Carl Felvers is the one who's basically running far too wide. As I mentioned before, I'm not sure how they're doing the track limits, but either way, all these drivers are taking advantage of them. Max Bird gets the run, gets the overspeed. Carl Felvers doesn't really have anything he can do about this one, but he's still going to brake late and go up the inside. And unlike Max Bird a lap ago, he does get the car stopped, and he retains that position.
Yeah, that was impressive, actually, from Felvers to get the car stopped into the chicane there. I thought he was going to go straight on for sure, but no, managed to get the car stopped, get it rotated into the turn, and now we ride on board with Max Bird, demoted back to 5th position, one place lower than he started, of course, because he started at 4th position, dropped back initially, got it back again partway through the race, and now Felvers back in front of him again. Down toward Pouhon they go on what I believe will be the final lap. I think they crossed the line with just under 2.5 minutes to go. Chris Shepherd could back off as well if he needed to by a second or so, although we saw drivers not doing that a week ago, and that definitely had ramifications for those chasing them behind. Brennan still second, Taylor still third, the battle over 4th place, and Jack Felvers just can't get away here, can he? And I fear that he's going to be under pressure once we get towards the chicane.
I think that's why Max Bird didn't really throw everything at him going into Le Con, because, of course, the run through Blanchimont and the exit of Blanchimont into the bus stop chicane is probably where this little battle is going to be won and lost. However, Max Bird has had to take a couple of stabs at the rat there in terms of turning in. He didn't get a clean exit, so all of a sudden that chance may have gone. We don't know how Eric Axelson's car was behaving. Carl Felvers has looked pretty much on rails, so that's why he's pulling away here. But we could see an ever-growing Fast R Cayman Cup appearing in the rear-view mirror, because Max hasn't got the chance to get Carl Felvers, so we may well see Chris Shepherd crossing the line here to take the victory. And in fact, he's going very slowly to try and make that assured, but he's going to have to be a little bit careful, because here comes Jordan Brennan, and Jordan Brennan's got past, and Nicky Taylor's got past, and Chris Shepherd is one more lap to go. So he didn't make it happen, and he's pulling off, and I'm not sure what's happened. I don't think that was anything to do. I think he's run out of fuel.
I do. I think he's out of fuel. I think he miscalculated the lap count, and he has run out of fuel. That is heartbreak for Chris Shepherd. Whatever the issue is, he's not going to finish. He's going to run off the track at turn 1 and not get going. He's got no power. It's either a hardware issue, or, as you said, he's run out of fuel. Now, this is a game changer, because this suddenly becomes the fight for the race win. Nicky Taylor is in prime position to get the slipstream up the Kemmel Straight and have a go at Jordan Brennan. He pulls to the outside line. He'll get his nose ahead. Can he clear the car on the inside? There's a bit of door banging late on the brakes for Taylor, and he gets the lead away on the final lap at Spa. Overshoots the corner. He's going to be really slow through the middle and exit part of Le Con, and that might just give Brennan a chance to get up the inside down to Purcell. He gets the overlap slightly. No, the door is closed by Nicky Taylor. Taylor is ahead, but Jack, do you want to be leading halfway around the last lap, given the power of that slipstream up towards Blanchimont?
I think both of these drivers are now seeing gold stars in their eyes, aren't they? Because there's a chance to take 25 points. The reason why we're making such a big deal of it is because everywhere, pretty much, if you finish in the top 5, the gap is 2 points between second and third. However, if you win, you get an extra one. The gap is 3 points. And in a championship like we have this season, that could mean everything. Brennan's trying to chase down Nicky Taylor. Nicky Taylor's trying to secure it tonight. And obviously, Carl Felvers will want them both to take each other off at this point, even if he is teammates with Nicky Taylor. Brennan to go around the outside of the chicane. It's brave, but he'll have the left. He's done very well. They are hip and shouldering, as you like to say, Andy, all over the place. They are slowing each other up. It's not going to be enough for Carl Felvers to try and catch them up. But as they go now towards Blanchimont, which is probably the most important corner, and into the bus stop chicane, it will be Jordan Brennan leading, Nicky Taylor with that overspeed if he can get a good exit, which he does.
That was some terrific racing through that middle sector, though, and Brennan round the outside to get the lead, but I don't think that's the place to be. Taylor's got the run, and as long as he sets himself up well, there's contact going into the fastest corner on the circuit. Brennan goes in tight. That will slow him down on the exit. He's surely going to park the car on the inside line towards the chicane, which he does. Taylor to the outside. Battle on the brakes. Brennan is later. Is he too late? Sort of, but he can park it on this next apex. He gets a bit of a slide. Nicky Taylor with the run. Get the photo finish camera ready. This is going to be a dead heat at the line. Nicky Taylor has the momentum. Brennan has the advantage, and by 78 1,000ths of a second, Jordan Brennan gets the race victory. His second victory of the season in the most dramatic fashion. Nicky Taylor second, Kyle Felvers third, just 1 place between them in the end, with Max Bird in fourth. That was sensational. Whatever happened to Chris Shepherd, I really feel for him. I really honestly do. But what a grandstand finish that gave us. And it's Jordan Brennan with all of that racecraft that we always credit him with. He used every ounce of it there to fend off Nicky Taylor and get the race win.
Yeah, that was quite brilliant, wasn't it? We thought the actual race victory was going to be all a bit dull, to be honest. We thought it was just going to be Chris Shepherd. Very well done. Clap, clap, clap. See what happens behind him. But as you said, we think it was a fuel issue, which he won't like me to say it, but realistically is arguably partly his fault for going too quickly, because he added on that extra lap, because he took the race pace to such a level where we had to go and do another full lap. And around such a long circuit like Spa, that could ruin some calculations. I'm sure all the drivers, if that was the case, all the drivers will learn from that and probably fuel up their car just a touch. Luckily, I think everybody else has managed to keep going. But wow, Jordan Brennan, Nicky Taylor, hats off to you. Carl Felder's managed to break away from Max Bird as well. So we're going to go very quickly to an interview, to an advert, so we can then get everybody in to have a chat about that remarkable race.
Right then, that was quite exciting, wasn't it? The first race of the night here at Spa, delivering in spades. We're hearing it was a brake pedal failure for Chris Shepherd, so he didn't miscalculate the fuel. It was a hardware issue that saw him slow down and pull up, starting what became the final lap. If the race had been 5 seconds shorter, it wouldn't have mattered, and he'd got the race win. As it was, he pulled off the side of the road, though, and opened the door for Jordan Brennan and Nicky Taylor to fight for the win. And what a fight it was. The drivers have joined us in the commentary box. We've only got a few minutes to try and unpack everything that happened there, but we'll start with the race winner, Jordan Brennan. Jordan, with a lap and a bit to go, you were 3 seconds off the lead in second place, and that was probably the best you could have hoped for. Talk us through that last lap and everything that went through your mind.
Yeah, I was just looking at Nicky behind coming into the last lap, and then I seen Chris in front slow down. I didn't know if he was slowing down for the race to end then, but we crossed the line with 0 seconds, and I was like, oh, this is still on. I'd cross it, and I was like, have I finished second here? Is it another lap? And it was another lap, and that was a difficult lap. But trying to keep Nicky behind was hard. But yeah.
Well, yeah, and of course he did get past you into Lacon, but then you fought back brilliantly through the middle sector. A fantastic move around the outside into the pit path. That put you ahead the run towards the final chicane. Was that the best place to be, do you think?
Well, it seemed to be.
Yeah.
It worked out quite well, so I knew I had to make it difficult for him to get past us in that toe, but I think I just got a little bop into the left, and it just kept me ahead.
So that little bump helped you in the end then, I suppose, and then you defended from there. Pretty close at the flag, though. Jordan, we'll let you go and prepare for race 2, but thank you for putting on one hell of a show there.
Yes, thank you.
Jordan Brennan then the race winner, and by 78 1/1000ths of a second, Jack, it was Nicky Taylor who came home second.
Yeah, Nicky, you probably would have been all right being in third place, obviously going on to that last lap, or even fighting for second. You would probably been quite happy with second going to that last lap. But then, obviously, with a race victory on the cards, you must be a bit gutted now to finish with the silver.
Yeah, but I mean, I knew exactly what Chris was doing at the line. I knew it was going to be very, very close from the lap before, so I knew he was going to slow down at the line. But then it's just unfortunate that if the line had been literally about 2 feet further forward, he would have won that. But yeah, the brake failure I saw in my rear mirror, and I was crapping myself without coming through. But yeah, no, it was a good race. It was really, really clean with Jordan, and I know it always is going to be with him because he's a clean racer and he's fast. I surprised myself with my race pace, to be perfectly honest with you, because I thought I was going to be miles off, but I was right up there. And yeah, and if I don't get to speak to you in the next one, I've got to go to Thruxton straight after this. So this in real life, so this will be interesting.
I was going to say, well, it's a bit of a shame because we do have to, with the race coming up so quickly, we do have to cut this interview a little bit short, but it's been brilliant to chat to you, Nicky. Hopefully we get to chat to you after the next race so we can delve into a little bit more what it was like this one.
Hopefully so. Hopefully we get the win, but just see how it goes.
Brilliant. Cheers, Nicky.
So, cheers.
It sounds like it might be an even more brief chat if he's got to dash off to Thruxton after that second race. We'll wait and see. Right, quickly, third place, Kyle Felvis. in comparison to the other two, you had a pretty quiet race in the end, but you had a grandstand view of all that on the final lap. Was there a moment where you thought it might all come to you?
Well, I know Nikki and Jordan can drive, so I wasn't really expecting a major crash.
Well, yes, they indeed just about managed to keep it clean, but you had your own fight there as well. Happy with third place at the end?
Yeah, very unfortunate for Chris. Bit worried now because I've got the same pedals as him, so let's hope mine don't fail.
Oh dear, right, well, we'll let you go and prepare for the second race, mate. Congratulations, though, on the podium.
Thank you.
So, there we go. We move things on quickly, and we're already getting ready for the second race of the night. Reversed grid. So, the race one winner, Jordan Brennan, starts 16th. Nikki Taylor alongside him there on the 8th row of the grid. And it's Paul Laramie on pole with Nathan Blank alongside. Now, Nathan, I think, had better pace than his 15th place finish in race one suggests. So, interesting to see what he can do here from the second place on the grid, the front row of this 8-row grid. Another 20 minutes on the clock then. Red lights coming on, headlights coming on for Ethan Dalton Ayres there, 5th on the grid. The red lights will go out though now, and away we go. Off the front of the grid, it's a pretty even start actually. Looking further back in the pack, yeah, not much difference there either. So it's Laramie that will hold on to the advantage into La Source for the first time. Dalton Ayres comes steaming up the middle of everyone though, and from 5th on the grid, I think Elliot Dalton Ayres might have got into second. There's a spin for Joel Lask, who will rejoin right at the back of the field, but it is side by side for the lead here as they head towards Eau Rouge. That's Nathan Blank alongside Paul Laramie, and a bit of contact further back, Jack.
Yeah, I think that was Eric Axelson, but Paul Laramie makes more contact further forward, unfortunately, after not getting Eau Rouge or Radion or whatever but it is, and he takes off one of the HFT. Who is that? The HFT car has gone spearing off to the left. It's Ethan Hill. Ethan Hill, unfortunately, has his race very much ended early, shall we say. Scott Bugner was involved. We got a safety car, and that was a little bit of a mess there, Andy, wasn't it? Let's try and decompress and figure out what happened, where it all happened, because it was a little bit difficult.
If there is a HFT car in an accident this season, you could bet your house on the fact it would be Ethan Hill. The other two seem to just somehow skirt by that disaster in the early laps, and it's almost always Ethan that unfortunately seems to get caught up in it. It happened to him way back at the season opener at Road Atlanta, didn't it? Lots of cars here carrying front-end damage. Reece Bell and Max Bird, interestingly, in front of him. Bird has made some storming progress on the opening lap. Behind the safety car then, it's Blank that leads. Andy Carroll second, but did have a bit of contact from the rejoining Paul Laramie up at the top of Radion. Jack Smith in third, 4th Elliot Dalton Ayres, 5th is Luke Weston, 6th Max Bird, 7th Reece Bell, 8th for Nikki Taylor, so Taylor did survive that, and is 1 place ahead of Kyle Felvis, who drops in there in 9th position. 10th Jordan Brennan, ahead of Axelson, Buki, Lask, Bugner, and Ethan Hill, who heads to the pit lane along with Paul Laramie. Without seeing it again, it would be hard to pass judgment, but when you go off at the top of the hill, you have to be so mindful of where your car is going. It's so easy to ricochet back into the road, and Laramie, having first hit the tyres on the left, there's very little he could do there, but I would argue perhaps the second rejoin onto the track was a tad more avoidable, and you've got to feel for poor Ethan Hill, who was just in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah, I'm going to try and give him a small get-out-of-jail excuse here, and that maybe the only thing I could think of, the only thing that would be an excuse is if he hit that wall on the left-hand side of his car, and that broke the suspension. And then, obviously, he came back out. He did make contact with another car, but then it was after that, wasn't it? His car sort of just speared over towards the left-hand side and sort of meandered to the left-hand side and back onto the circuit. And at that point, that shouldn't have happened. One, yeah, okay, your suspension's damaged, but just hit the brakes as hard as you can. Stop the car. You don't really want to meander anywhere if you can't help it. But, yeah, big shame because it did cause, as you said, a massive accident. And there was even an accident earlier on, so at La Source, but I can't quite remember who was involved in it. I think you said it was Joel Lask, didn't you? So, yeah, bit of a shame, but everybody's out the way. Going down the bus stop chicane. Safety car is going to be in this lap, I reckon. So Nathan Blank will lead him away.
Yes, looks like that's the case. He's certainly accelerating now. Battle on for second place. Jack Smith sniffs an opportunity for a race win here, doesn't he? Because he's attacking Andy Carroll for second place, and then he would, I reckon, have the pace to go after the race leader, but that doesn't work, and Elliot Dalton Ayres instead sets about trying to take third place away from him. In the background, Taylor and Felvis have both moved ahead of Reece Bell, bringing Eric Axelson with them too. Side by side towards Eau Rouge, Andy Carroll on the left, Jack Smith on the right, and Jack would do well here, I think, to drop in line behind Carroll. He'll have the better run over the hill and should be able to challenge into Lake Com. He's found a gap on the inside. Andy Carroll, good driving there, not to close the door. Would have been an enormous accident if he'd have done so. And Jack Smith should now go second, but they're all queuing up behind Luke Weston. You can see dipping his nose out in the Motor Swan car. The red and black car is Dalton Ayres as well. And Weston goes up the inside of the wall. Never going to work. Into the side of Jack Smith. He's sideways right in front of the championship leaders as well. Oh, it opens up beautifully for Felvers. No! Off they go. That's Nicky Taylor off the road, spinning the wrong way. Jack Smith as well. And Jack, the championship leader, so nearly got through that and ends up pointing the wrong way.
Yeah, that was... I'm glad you were covering that. I was trying to keep focused on everything that was going on, but let's face it, I think without safety car again, I think everybody sort of realised this, watching that Luke Weston was coming from a long way back, and yes, all right, he might not have ended up off the road, but the only reason why he didn't end up off the road is because he used 2 other cars to brake. So, unfortunately, that has meant that we've under another safety car, but big news, obviously, is the one you covered at the end, which is Nicky Taylor, championship leader, is now got a very badly damaged car. So he probably enjoyed that second place. He might not enjoy the rest of these 15 minutes though.
He is 28 points clear of Kyle Felvers. Mathematically, Nicky could have won the championship in this race if he'd have outscored Kyle by a significant amount. That, of course, now looks very unlikely. He will at least be able to rejoin the tail end of the Crocodile because of this safety car, but how much damage is done to that number 17 car? That's the big question. Felvers, on the other hand, got through that scot-free and is sitting in 5th position, and he will think that he's quicker than at least 3 of the cars in front of him. The one perhaps doubtful one is Max Bird, who's in 3rd, but I reckon Kyle will fancy his chances here. There is some damage, look, to Kyle Felvers' car, but I think that's relatively minor. What about Nicky Taylor, though? Because he was the one that got spun and I think made some contact with the tyre barrier as well. Riding on board with him, weaving around. Looks like he might have got away with that. Jack, he so nearly got through that. It looked like the door was going to open perfectly as they went through the middle part of Lake Com, and then they all converged on him, and he was a complete passenger. Nothing that Nicky could do there. He's lucky, actually, not to get more damage, and then he can catch back up to the back of the pack behind the safety car.
Yeah, exactly. And it was another one of those cases where I mentioned it in the first race. Damned if you do, damned if you don't sort of thing. Obviously, he was trying to take his line. He had lots of people behind him. He had to try and keep his pace up as best as possible. But he probably knew, and lots of other people probably knew, that the safer thing would have just been to back off a little bit, and because you could always tell that Weston was uncontrolled, and so was Jack Smith. So it didn't quite happen anyway. Nathan Blank will restart again for the 3rd time on the front row of the grid, and his time from the lead. Again, Dalton Ayres and Max Bird are the drivers just behind him, but I think Max Bird is going to have the move into La Source. Not quite done yet, actually. So, yeah, Max unfortunately not really been able to have the bravery to get on late on the brakes. And what I will say as well, the damage model on Assetto Corsa, which is the sim that we use, is pretty good, but it's fairly realistic, and the cars will take some whacking before they're properly damaged. But with front ends looking like that, it will take a mile or 2 off your top speed, won't it, Andy? Which around here, it could be the difference between being able to go for a lunge and being a bit of a cannon fodder.
Yes, driving a damaged car around Spa is not going to be pleasant, and Jack Smith doesn't fancy it, so he's pulled into the pit lane to retire. Luke Weston, though, looks like he's executing some repairs in the pit lane. Right, we've had some changes here. Max Bird is ahead of Elliot Dalton Ayres for 2nd. Kyle Felvers ahead of Andy Carroll for 4th position, and now ahead of Dalton Ayres for 3rd as well. So Felvers is a man on a mission here. Nicky Taylor, though, has picked up some spots as well. He's into 10th place, so realistically, Felvers, even if he wins the race, is only going to take a few points out of Taylor. Unless, of course, Taylor gets caught up in something else, fighting his way back through the pack, which is always a possibility. 12 minutes still to go. They drop down into Puon, and this is the fight for 4th position. Elliot Dalton Ayres, number 84, red and black car with the red, white and blue of the Kinetic Motorsport with Liquimolly car. Jordan Brennan behind him, the man who won race 1 somehow, is trying now to go around the outside of Elliot Dalton Ayres into the same corner that he overtook Nicky Taylor for earlier on. He gets the move made and moves into P4.
He does indeed. Carl Fells and Max Bird are actually reigniting their battle from race 1, aren't they? But this time it's for 2nd place, not for 3rd. And again, Max Bird is leading Carl Felvers, but with a rather battered car. So like I was saying before, the aerodynamics are a little bit ruined on Max's car. We may see Kyle having a bit of an easier go at this one. Obviously, Kyle did come out on top in that first race, but trying to go around the outside of Blanchimont, it's always a bit of a brave move. He's very wisely decided to tuck back under, try and get a good exit as they go down towards the bus stop chicane. Felvers on the outside, Bird trying to defend. What can he do here? Felvers didn't make the first apex. Will he have the car set up and on rails out of the second? Well, it's just about as good as Max Bird actually, and unfortunately that means Bird is not going to be in a position where Felvers can have a little pop of him into the source. He still looks left, just to give him something to think about, just so he can eye it up, but it was never really going to happen from there.
No, it wasn't, so he stays behind. Meanwhile, I noticed in his wing mirrors there that Jordan Brennan and Elliot Dalton-Ayres were getting into it through the bus stop chicane. Elliot is back into fourth now, ahead of Brennan, who's got his teammate Dave Buki going side by side with Andy Carroll behind him. And then Joel Lask, who was pointing the wrong way at the first corner, into 8th position now. All sideways for Buki. That was really, really close, and that stacks the whole group up, and there goes Nicky Taylor! Oh, through a gap that never existed. Nicky Taylor on the grass somehow got away with that and came out of it with 8th position, but that was so close to complete disaster. He may be pulling out to give those places back. I'm not sure. No, he's defending on the inside line. Buki into Carroll, sideways in front of Taylor. Oh, many of these incidents is Nicky Taylor going to be in or around. Somehow he's still going, and he's made it into 7th place, but he pulls over, and I think he's now giving those places back.
Yeah, it's difficult to know who he should be giving those places back to because of everything that happened just then. But he has given them all back. And it's probably the safe bet, to be honest. The last thing Nicky Taylor needs is to get a penalty or being told that he's given us time penalty at the end of the race, really. That will hurt him big time. So, bit of a shame for Nicky, who's doing okay. But realistically, he was dead last, obviously. He's had 4 drivers come into the pits around him, Bugner being one of them now, but Weston, Smith and Hill, which means he's really only overtaken probably about 2 cars out there, and that's probably not as good as he was hoping for after the second restart. So a little bit of work to do for Taylor still, especially as Carl Felvers looks to be trying to chase down Nathan Blank, who, you're bang on, Andy, did not show his true pace in race 1. His racecraft let him down, unfortunately, but his pace is obviously still there.
Yeah, well, he was 6th in the championship coming into tonight and had a realistic opportunity of gaining more places and winning himself a prize come the end of the season. So he needs a win now. He's dropped down to 6th and he's actually some 20-odd points behind Ethan Hill. So really does need to try and start digging himself out of that hole, especially with Ethan non-scoring at the moment. Ethan took that 5th place away from him, took 5th place and then Joel Lask into 6th. I know what I'm talking about. That therefore has seen him drop down the order. Of course, Lask is still running in 6th, but Ethan Hill 5th in the championship, not in the race. If any of that made sense, I'd be amazed. Let's move on. Nathan Blank leads the way. Kyle Felvers chasing him down, and he's got the fastest lap to boot. And that, of course, Jack, is worth a bonus point in the championship.
Very important because, and don't ask me how, because I'll probably get it just as mixed up as you. Both Dave Buki and Nicky Taylor, though. No, Buki's not having any of that, is he? The Liquid Molly car just forcing Taylor off the road there. And, I mean, to be fair, it's probably quite fair. That one sort of hung out to dry, but he wasn't exactly shoved off. He was just encouraged off, shall we say. This one could get a little bit more dicey, though, and Nicky Taylor having to take a massive cut of the track means he really, there we go, flash of the brakes, or is that flash of the lights? I'm not entirely sure. Probably a flash of the lights, because he's probably not overly pleased with how aggressive Dave Buki is being under defence, in the defensive strategy. However, what I would say, Andy, is that I think Dave Buki, as of yet, he's skirting a fine line, but as of yet, hasn't done anything wrong. However, he's just stepped his back end out, which may well give Nicky an impetus to try and go for it again.
Oh, he could do with getting past Buki, quite frankly, because this has got disaster written all over it. He's on the grass again, down into Brissell. Buki closes the door when there was a car fully alongside him, albeit a car that had been on the grass slightly. But anyway, Taylor had every right to be on the inside line and does now go through. Whew, thank goodness for that. Right, Nicky Taylor into 8th place, and he will now see a very welcome sight in front of him. Acres of empty racetrack. That is not a luxury that Nicky Taylor has enjoyed all that much in this race. Right now, I think he might take an 8th place finish in a boring final 7 minutes of the race. I know that the racer in him would like to gain more ground, but honestly, getting out of this race in one piece would be a bit like a victory for Nicky.
Yeah, exactly. And to be honest, a couple of drivers ahead of him don't look like they're going to finish in one piece. So he may actually pick up some extra free positions, because we're looking at Joel Lask at the moment, fighting it out with Eric Axelson. Both of these drivers have been in the wars. to be fair to Joel Lask, he span out at La Source. He was the first driver that actually was a casualty of this race, shall we say. But he's patched himself back up and doing a very good job of it, to be honest. Fighting for a top half finish, because there are only 12 runners in this race now. And doing a brilliant job. Eric Axelsson is not a slow driver, and Joel is doing very well. Although, he has just missed the apex of Blanchimont, which I think will give Eric a really good run on him into the bus stop chicane, but Joel Lask clearly didn't lift to come back onto the circuit, took advantage of those track limits, and stays ahead for now.
Yes. You asked in the first race how they're policing track limits. I'd like to know how they're defining track limits, because we're seeing quite a few of them inventing their own lines around certain parts of the circuit and not seemingly giving up any of the time that they gain. But thankfully, it's not my job to sort all of that out. Right, back to the race leaders. And as you can see, it's getting nice and close now. Half a second or so separating Nathan Blank and Kyle Felvers. Felvers has been a little bit quicker than Blank over the last couple of laps and needs this win. There is a good chance that Nicky Taylor may not improve here on 8th position. He's 2.5 seconds behind that Lask and Axelsson battle. And even with them battling, he's not really gaining on them. So 8th might be as good as it gets. If Felvers, can win the race, then suddenly things get a lot interesting in the championship. A win is worth 25 points, 8th place worth just 13. So that 28-point gap would come down to 16 points, maybe even 15, because Felvers still has that fastest lap. That is doable going into the final round. So Felvers needs every point he can get out of this one.
It's not just Felvers anymore, though, is it, Andy? Because at the end of race 1, you were talking about championship just before as well, with the 6th and 5th and everything like that. Well, we know that now Carl Felvers is tied on points after race 1 with Jordan Brennan. So as much as we talk about Carl Felvers in a championship run-in with his teammate Nicky Taylor, we have to talk about Jordan Brennan, who has, I wouldn't say snuck up there, but let's face it, it's a remarkable turnaround since the first 2 races of this championship. So Jordan Brennan, now just as likely as Carl Felvers, to try and take the fight to Nicky Taylor. And Jordan Brennan is currently in 3rd place in the race, only just behind Felvers. So if Felvers can't get past Nathan Blank very quickly, and Nathan Blank seems quick, although he seems sideways as well for a little bit of that corner, this may well give Felvers the opportunity and cut my sentence short somewhat. But Jordan Brennan might catch up to these two sooner than he thinks with the front 2 fighting.
Well, Nathan Blank ain't going to pull over and let him through here,
no.
is he? Let's be honest. So I think there's a good chance Brennan's going to catch them, and Felvers needs this to be a clean pass. He can't afford to go off the road, and he can't afford to pick a penalty up either. He's to the outside into the chicane. Very late on the brakes, way too late on the brakes for Nathan Blank, who draws a bit of a blank there, goes straight across the corner and still hasn't rejoined. So through into the lead goes Felvers. That was the best thing that could have happened for Carl Felvers, really, because he didn't lose too much time in that. But you're right, Jordan Brennan with the fastest lap of the race, a 2:29.224, takes a big chunk of time out of the leader and takes that bonus point off him as well. So you're absolutely right, well spotted. Jordan Brennan is as much a factor in this championship battle as Kyle Felvers is. In the first 4 races of the season, Brennan had just the 1 podium finish, whereas Taylor and Felvers had never been off the podium by that point. It is absolutely remarkable. That is the word, Jack, that Jordan Brennan is back in this championship fight. And I reckon he's got the pace to challenge Felvers here for the race win.
Yeah, I was going to say, we didn't see Felvers get held up too much by Blank, but he was held up at Blanchimont, which cost him a full second on that previous lap. Tied that in with, as you mentioned, Brennan getting the fastest lap of the race and taking that point away from Felvers. It was probably the worst lap that Felvers was hoping for, to be honest, in terms of, apart from obviously getting taken out. So Nathan Blank, still there. He's still a factor. We can't forget about him, but he is making a few more mistakes than the 2 ahead of him. Carl Felvers going a little bit wide on the entry, but really hooking up the exit nicely through there, going through No Name. It's interesting to see from this perspective, isn't it, Andy, whether the cars are, how they're behaving, what the attitude's like. And quite often you can tell by a car's attitude whether they missed the braking zone or missed the apex, or exactly what Carl Felvers was doing there, a little bit of overdriving. They might be driving in the mirrors, and Jordan Brennan gets a good run through Pouillon, and he's going to have an opportunity to go around the outside. We've seen him do this with HFT before. Carl Felvers lets him go, I would argue there, Andy.
Well, and so he should, because there's still another lap to go after this. I would not want to be leading onto the final lap. I know that Brennan said that, that turned out to be the right place to be halfway around the final lap in race 1, but generally speaking, I'd rather be the car behind, certainly going out of Eau Rouge. and up towards Lake Com. That is the position Felvers finds himself in. He has to latch on to that rear bumper of Jordan Brennan then, not let Brennan make a break. There's 4 tenths between them. It will come down as they slipstream with each other up through Blanchimont and towards the chicane, but Brennan needs the 2 or 3 corners here of his life to try and break that toe a bit and prevent Felvers getting close enough in half a lap's time to have a go into Lake Com. They close together into the chicane. There will be a minute on the clock, no doubt about it this time. This will be the final lap of the race. Those safety cars have slowed the pace down considerably, so it's going to be a 8-lap race, and Jordan Brennan starts that final lap only a couple of car lengths, if that, clear of Kyle Felvers. These two tied for second in the championship coming into this race. Nicky Taylor, I noticed, though, has caught Joel Lask. I think Taylor may get 7th place going through into the final lap, but still crucial, Jack, that these two outscore him by as much as possible, and neither will want to lose points to the other either.
No, I was going to say, what Kyle Felvers did, backing out, is either going to be lauded as a brilliant bit of racecraft and strategy, or it's going to be questioned, why on earth would you give up track position? And that's the risk that Kyle Felvers has gone for here, as Jordan Brennan white lines it as a defensive mechanism to go into Le Com. And who can blame him? Kyle Felvers having to go to the outside. God, Brennan very wisely moving over to try and squeeze him and not offer him a turn in into the corner. But there's Brennan's rear end going very sideways, and again trying to light up those rear tyres. Maybe that 50 kilograms on board has really hurt those rear tyres now as they go on to the... We are on the last lap, of course, so it didn't happen at Le Com. Kyle Felvers realistically has a couple more chances, and I thought there was going to be an opening there, a Kyle Felvers size gap, but it wasn't the case. Brennan is defending very well, and we know he can on last laps. Just look at race 1.
Nicky Taylor, by the way, is in 6th place, so 2 places gained. That is crucial. That means he's now on course for 15 points, just 10 less than a race win is worth. So this is still a valuable race win for these two, but Nicky Taylor doing the best he can here to stem the flow, to limit the damage that they're doing. He's a 1.5 seconds behind Elliot Dalton-Air and catching him through the middle sector, so Taylor could yet finish in the top 5 in what would be the comeback drive of the season. Through into the final sector we're about to go, though. Has Kyle Felvers played his cards right here? He didn't get the move made into Lake Com, but he's more close enough to benefit from the toe. Heading through Blanchimont, I don't think he's going to do it, though. Jordan Brennan's been supreme through the last few corners, and a 4/10 of a second cushion heading up the hill for the final time might just be enough. Right, place your bets, everyone. Jordan Brennan versus Kyle Felvers. Both of them fighting for a championship here. Both of them joint second in the points coming into this second race of the night. I just don't think Felvers has got anything for him. He uses all the track limits and then some out of Blanchimont. He's not close enough into the braking zone, though. It would take a mistake from Jordan Brennan to open the door, and that doesn't work. That doesn't happen that often. Brennan nails the braking point for the chicane. He gets on the power cleanly, and Jordan Brennan will come through to become the 3rd driver this season to take 2 wins in the same night. It is his 3rd win of the season, and maybe the most important of the lot. 2nd for Felvers, 3rd for Blank, 4th for Bird, 5th Dalton-Ayres, and Nicky Taylor, 6th position. What a comeback that was from all of the trials and tribulations in the early stages. He gets a brilliant 6th place finish, which really is going to help him in the championship. Carnage at the chicane here between Dave Buki, Andy Carroll, and Eric Axelson, and it's going to be Buki that comes out on top in 8th position. Oh, I do not know what to say, Jack. We have seen by far the most dramatic night of racing so far this season, and it sets us up for quite the thriller in a week's time.
Oh, doesn't it just? That was, yeah, breathless. I think you're feeling the effects of that as well, aren't you, Andy? That was quite incredible, but Brennan has done pretty much everything he could do tonight, bar, obviously, finishing, getting that pole position lap, because I believe he got the point for the fastest lap. I am just sort of half double checking that, and I think he did by about 0.3 of a second. I think Nicky Taylor was the only driver that was really anywhere near him. So, yeah, fantastic drive by Jordan Brennan. He will now be ahead of Kyle Felvers, and he will probably be within touching distance of Nicky Taylor in the championship. But we'll bring you all of those updates and results and everything like that after we finish the driver interview. And some of them have already started speaking. So why don't we just talk to them straight away, Andy?
Yes, okay. I don't think I've composed myself yet. Right, let's talk to the race winner, shall we? No, I don't think that it's going to take me a while, I think, to come down from that one. That was quite the race. Jordan Brennan it is that comes home as a race winner again. Jordan, you're in the comms box, and you're going to give us an interview now, I think, whilst drifting your way back to the pit lane. I mean, you must be the calmest, most collected driver out there, not just to be able to chat to us whilst going sideways, but to win both of those races under the most extreme pressure. That ain't easy. Well done.
That was another difficult one, but we managed to make it work somehow. Going on to the second to last lap, I'd seen Kyle was wanting to tow, so I just backed it off going into Eau Rouge, so then he couldn't really get much of an overrun on me, so I was like, if I can keep him back here, then I've got it. And yeah, it worked out.
Yeah, we did wonder that, because you made the move on him on the penultimate lap. He didn't look like he made it too hard for you. But then it was really all about that middle sector, because having fended him off into Les Combes, of course, you've got another long drag up to the final chicane, but you nailed that middle sector. Looked strong there all night, actually, though, it has to be said.
Yeah, it is a really good track, this, and the only place I seem to be struggling is through the final chicane. I just can't keep grip where everyone else is. But yeah, through that middle sector, it's a really good bit of track.
Now, I remember asking you a few times earlier in the season, as you were starting to sort of get to grips with the Cayman, you got your first win at the Nürburgring, a couple more podiums since then. I remember asking you, do you think you can get back into this championship battle? And you were not that willing to agree with me. I said you could, and you didn't seem to think so. What about now, though? Because Nicky Taylor had a bad race there. The gap's come right down now. I think you're within 20 points going into the final two races. And tonight has kind of proven that anything can happen. So what do we think? Can you do it?
We'll see what we can do. It's still a big gap, but as you said, anything can happen. But yeah, I'll give it a good go, and hopefully I can get at least second or third at least anyway.
Well, regardless of what happens, it was a phenomenal double victory here tonight at Spa, the third driver this season to manage to win two races in a night. Only fitting then that we give you the Driver of the Day award, because we gave it to Nicky when he did that at Road Atlanta. We gave it to Kyle when he did it at the Red Bull Ring, and the pressure you were under to get those victories in the bag tonight, I think, is more than deserving of the Driver of the Round. So a Powermax Valeting kit on its way to you.
Cheers, thank you.
So Jordan Brennan sounding remarkably calm, a lot calmer than we were, Jack, by the end of that race, as he yet again manages to hang on for what could be a really important race win.
Oh yeah, I think that could come down to, or be known as sort of probably the most important round and set of results that we see in this entire season from Jordan Brennan. I have to say it was unfortunately at the expense of our second place man. Now Kyle, you've had what probably on paper looks like a very good evening, but you have slipped down to third place. What were your emotions after that?
I don't really mind, to be honest. I mean, I want to get second because I won that rig, but it was a cracking battle and I've got a smile on my face and I enjoyed it. That's the main thing.
That is very much the main thing. We're glad to hear you enjoyed it. Talk us through your race then, because obviously getting past Nathan Blank, it held you up a little bit, didn't it, going through Blanchimont? You probably saw the driver of Jordan Brennan coming up, rearing his head up behind you as well. What was the emotions like going into the final two laps? Because it certainly got our hearts racing.
Yeah, I mean, I let Jordan by, as you probably saw, because I wanted the tow, but then Jordan is just... He's so smart with how he races, and like he said, going into Eau Rouge, he sort of lifted on the entry, so then I couldn't get that big run that I needed, which just just helped him massively, because I could have got round the outside. He probably would have still held it, but yeah.
Well, very good points, I have to say, for you picking up. There's still an opportunity for you to catch Nicky. It's slightly an outside shot, I'll grant you, but then again, it's slightly an outside shot for Jordan as well. However, seeing your teammate down in 6th place, did you sort of get a sense in that second race that there was a little bit more to play for? Because there was a little bit more, there was the extra points you could claw back, basically.
Yeah, I mean, it was unfortunate for Nicky. I saw everything, and Ethan, but I just don't know how. I've got to watch the replay because that was intense, but I managed to get through it. I had a bit of a moment when Ethan rolled back when he got spun, and I sort of slid across the grass, nearly spinning, but luckily saved it.
Very lucky indeed. I'd say I'd probably skillfully saved, actually. Carl, give yourself some credit.
Yeah.
Very well done, Carl. Hopefully we'll speak to you next week.
Yeah, hopefully. Have fun.
So, Kyle Felvus then, second place. The race leader, though, for much of that one was Nathan Blank, who eventually came home in third position. But Nathan, with those championship contenders bearing down on you at the end, I think it was maybe the sensible thing to not get too involved with that and just sort of watch what was going on from behind. But a really strong performance from you nonetheless there. Certainly an improvement on race one.
Yeah, massive improvement on race one. Unfortunately, I'm nowhere near as consistent as these guys. They're much faster than me, and as I said on the chat, Jordan lives about 2 hours away from me. I said you would have heard my heart going from there. Obviously I might have changed the word a little bit, but yes, it was a little bit nervy running in there. I saw the guys battling, Jordan and Carl battling behind me, and I was kind of like, okay, can you two just battle away please and let me go off into the distance? Didn't happen, obviously. A couple of errors, they closed the gap. I was a bit disappointed with the second safety car, because the first safety car got a great start and got some distance, and the faster guys would have been at the back of the pack. And then a second safety car. But yeah, I mean, again, over the moon, podium. I wouldn't say it's standard. I don't make many podiums, but it's usually I mess up and then I do well, which is same again.
Well, I'm looking back at some of your results. Certainly at the Red Bull Ring, it was a 14th in race one, a 4th in race two. Your only other podium this season came at Road Atlanta, again in the reverse grid races. So they are a great opportunity, the reverse grid races, aren't they, to sort of bounce back if things don't quite go your way in the first race, and give some other drivers an opportunity to get up there and get their moment in the sun, so to speak. And if the race had been a couple of laps shorter, you may have even been able to get the race win. Nonetheless, a solid way to round out the night and keep yourself just about in contention for a top 5 in the championship as well.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. I'm up there. I've got a shout at that top 5. So we'll see how is it the last one now? The last one at Mugello? So yeah, look forward to that next week. And difficult track, but I'll do my best.
We've got you 6 points behind Ethan Hill. That's the gap between 5th and 6th places. So there is a chance of a prize coming your way, Nathan. Congratulations on the podium. Best of luck for next week.
Thanks ever so much.
Nathan Blank then comes home third in the second race of this penultimate night of races. He's upset me a bit there, Jack, by reminding me that this is the penultimate week. We've only got one more week of this championship. And this is how it stands. A 17-point cushion between Nicky Taylor and Jordan Brennan, who, against all of the odds and against his own predictions, has managed to emerge into the final round as Nicky's nearest rival. He is in turn 4 points ahead of Kyle Felvus, who said he really wants that rig, which is the prize for the second place in the championship. So that's going to be an all-out brawl between those two, even if they can't catch Nicky in front. They are the only three that can mathematically win the championship now, because Eric Axelson in fourth in the championship is 57 points off the top with 54 remaining. So he mathematically can no longer beat Taylor to the championship victory. Can, of course, still hold on to this fourth place. Could mathematically take third away from Felvus. He's just he's 23 points ahead of Ethan Hill in fifth. And then, as I mentioned, it's very close there. Ethan Hill is just the 6 points ahead of Nathan Blank for the final prize-giving position, and Nathan 4 points ahead of Joel Lask. It's going to be a busy night next week at Mugello, isn't it, chap? We've not just got the championship fight to watch out for, but all of the other prizes well and truly up for grabs as well.
Yeah, it's always the final round where we become even more grateful, because we are always grateful, for having Tom O'Farrell on the broadcast, because he tends to do a lot of the calculations for us, which is quite kind of him on the fly. So we'll try and do our best to cover all the various championship positions and all the various fights as well. We can see Max Bird did a good job there, considering he's only been in for one round, already on 36 points. It's going to make a monumental effort to try and catch up to anybody else, but still a good race by him. Hopefully we'll see him in further championships, because I believe next week we will be able to tell you, and it will all be confirmed, and details about the next championship. It sounds exciting from what I've heard. Right, I think it's about that time that we have a look at next week, or what's going on elsewhere on VRRC, Andy. So hopefully we'll be able to bring you the graphic up. There we go. What's cracking? If you're a Forza Horizon fan, i.e. a bit more of a casual sim racer, or just enjoy cars but don't necessarily want to get involved in the full red-bloodedness of competition, then you might be interested in Forza Horizon 5 and VRRC. There is a channel dedicated to Forza, so you can get on here and make sure you chat to like-minded individuals. If you are a person who likes to get stuck in with the red-blooded ferocity of a Assetto Corsa Championship like you've seen tonight, well, then you can join in on them as well, of course, as well as some Fun Cup races and time attacks. And the Praga Fun Cup is what's running currently on a Saturday, which is free to anyone. All you have to do is click the link down below, takes you to Discord, and that'll tell you how to sign up, where to be, and what to do, basically. If you're an Assetto Corsa Competizione fan, well, then you'll probably enjoy weekly endurance races. And again, VRRC like to host them, as well as have a bit of a community about drivers who go elsewhere and race as well. Dirt Rally 2.0, if you're a dirt fan, a rally fan, which I know our own Dave Marshall, who runs a lot of the leagues, he loves Dirt Rally 2.0, so he always enjoys putting out weekly stages and rallycross from Monday to Sunday during the week. So if you like dirt and anything off-road, basically, then you'll want to be clicking that link down below as well.
There's the on button. Yes, I was acting there, kicking back, listening to you telling me all about what's coming up on the VRRC, and forgot that I was actually still working. Yes, thank you, Jack. Yeah, I believe we can confirm that the next championship on the VRRC is coming on the 4th of May, and that will be Civic Cup. We had a Civic Cup a little while ago. This one's going to be new and improved, though. Switch back to front-wheel drive tin top racing as well, and that's all going to be very, very exciting indeed. So do head over to the VRRC social media pages for all of the information on how to join and watch that, whichever you would prefer. That is it, though, from the Spa-Francorchamps circuit in Belgium, though, and this is, yes, a sad moment in a way, because only the one more week of racing to go. Join us again in a week's time, same place, where we'll be heading to virtual Italy and the Mugello circuit, which will play host to the final round of the Agon by AOC Cayman Cup, with still 3 drivers in contention for the championship. It's going to be an absolute thriller. For me, though, Andy McEwen, Jack Oliphant, Tom O'Farrell, and Dave Marshall, everyone here at the VRRC, thank you for joining us. We'll see you again one more time next week.
Woo!